Solo, smart, and still riding. Practical safety for women who ride alone. This is Hot Flashes and Horsepower. I'm your host, Shell, road name Pass Out. And yes, sometimes I ride alone, and no, I am not reckless. There is something incredibly powerful about riding a motorcycle by yourself, not negotiating where you're going, no waiting for somebody else to be ready, no worrying about whether the group wants to stop for gas or take the scenic route or pound on through. You're not on anybody else's timeline. It's just you, the motorcycle, the road, and whatever adventure happens next. And don't get me wrong, I love group rides. I love riding with my girls. I love riding with a group of women. I love the camaraderie, the laughs at the gas station, the gossip over breakfast, the ridiculous conversations in parking lots, and that feeling when a whole line of us on motorcycles roll down the highway together, turning heads. God, I love that. But there is another kind of freedom that comes from riding alone. And that's what we're talking about today, solo female motorcycle riding. But we're not going to do the usual, ladies, make sure you wear your helmet and all the gear all the time. Yeah, we know. And trust me, I wholeheartedly support that message. But today we're going much deeper because motorcycle safety isn't just about what happens when you're moving. Some of the biggest safety concerns, especially for women, happen when you're not moving at all. Where you stop for gas, where you pull over, whether you tell someone where you're going, what happens when your bike won't start, what happens when you get a flat, what happens when you drop a 700 or 800 or 900 pound motorcycle in a parking lot and suddenly realize, oh crap, that sucker's not getting back up by itself now, is it? What about camping alone or going to a motorcycle rally alone or stopping at a restaurant where you're the only woman sitting at the bar, getting stranded in an unfamiliar town where you know nobody? What if somebody makes you uncomfortable? What if you realize you're being followed? And here's the thing, none of those situations mean you shouldn't ride. They mean you should have a plan. Because confidence isn't thinking, nothing bad will ever happen to me. Confidence is knowing something does happen. I have a plan and I have options. So today we're talking about the practical realities of solo riding, especially as women. Not to scare you, not to tell you to stay home, and definitely not to tell you you need to be escorted everywhere you go. Hell no. Quite the opposite. This episode is about making sure that when you turn that throttle, pull out of the driveway, head down the highway alone, you know how to take care of yourself and your motorcycle. So let's get into it. The solo rider mindset. There is one fundamental difference between riding with a group and riding alone. When you're riding with others, someone else may notice that something is wrong. Your buddy sees your tire looks a little low, or somebody notices, hey, you missed a turn. Somebody realizes you've pulled over. Someone can ride ahead to get help. Someone can hold your bike up while you check that oil or troubleshoot. Someone can call for assistance. When you're alone, that person is you. And that doesn't mean you need to become a motorcycle mechanic, but you do need to develop what I call situational competence. You need to know enough to recognize problems early. You need to know what your motorcycle normally feels like, what normal tire pressure feels like, what normal braking feels like, what normal engine temperature feels like, what normal noises sound like on your bike. Because sometimes your motorcycle will tell you something is wrong before any warning light ever does. And here's another important mindset shift. You don't have anything to prove, sisters. If something doesn't feel right, stop. If you're tired, stop. If you're uncomfortable with the location, get the fuck out. Leave. If the weather looks ugly, pull over somewhere safe or turn around. If your motorcycle's behaving strangely, don't keep pushing because you're only 30 miles from home. Look, I haven't been riding forever, but I've done enough riding to know that sometimes the smartest thing you can say is, hell no. Nope. You don't get extra motorcycle points for making a bad situation worse. Before you leave, you should have a pre-ride safety system. Before I leave on a solo ride, I want 3 things handled: my motorcycle, my communication, and my route. Let's start with the motorcycle. A pre-ride inspection. If you took the Motorcycle Safety Foundation Basic Rider course, you're familiar with the acronym TCLOCS. You don't need a 45-minute mechanical inspection every morning before you hop on your bike, but you should know the basics. Checking your tire pressure, your tire condition, your oil level, your brake fluid, your coolant, if that applies to your particular bike, lights, turn signals, brake light, horn, mirrors, fuel level, any obvious leaks, any unusual noises or smells. And for the love of God, pay attention to your tires, because your tires are literally the only thing connecting you to the road. I'm going to use kind of a weird analogy here, but as women, we are told to be diligent about performing monthly breast self-examinations, right? Look for changes, feel for anything that looks different or feels different from last month. Pay attention to your boobs, save your life, right? Same thing with your tires. Think of a tire inspection on your bike the same way you think about your breast self-exams. Look for what's changed, look for what's different, look for what doesn't sit right. Pay attention, look for uneven wear, cracks, bulges, embedded objects, a nail, a tack, low tread, anything that looks different from the last time you checked. And please don't rely exclusively on how the tire looks. A tire can look perfectly fine and still have a pressure problem. Your tire gauge should live somewhere accessible, not buried in the garage, not sitting on a shelf, on the bike or with your riding gear. And if you don't know how to check your tire pressure, learn. It's one of the easiest pieces of motorcycle maintenance you can master. And honestly, ladies, we are so privileged. We live in a time with such amazing technology and so many wonderful gadgets that can help simplify this for us. If you're not already aware, there are small portable tire gauges that also double as air pumps. They're about the size of a pocketbook. You can keep it right there in your saddlebag or with your gear. And as long as you know what the appropriate tire pressure is for your specific bike and tire, all you got to do is plug that number in, hook that sucker up to your valve stem, and let her rip. If your rear tire is supposed to be inflated to a standard 42 psi, all you got to do is plug in 42 into that sucker. Hook it up. Let her rip. If your tire is overinflated, it will adjust the pressure downward. And if your tire is underinflated, it will pump it up for you. You barely even got to get your hands dirty. Cool as shit. Highly recommend investing in one. Know your motorcycle's limits. This one is particularly important for women riding larger touring motorcycles. Let's talk about weight. A Harley Street Glide, a Road King, a Heritage. They're big bikes. And they can be real heavy, especially if you load them down with a bunch of shit. So be mindful of how your luggage and gear impacts the weight on your bike, how that's going to impact your fuel consumption and range, as well as your handling. Now, these are highly manageable motorcycles, but manageable doesn't mean weightless. And there's a huge difference between controlling a motorcycle when you're moving and trying to move it when it's on the ground, which brings us to the least glamorous and most important solo riding skills. What do you do when you drop the bike? Let's just normalize this, okay? Motorcycles fall over. Every experienced rider drops a motorcycle at some point. Brand new riders drop motorcycles. People who have ridden for 40 years sometimes still drop motorcycles. It happens. Sometimes motorcycles simply decide, today we're taking a nap. If you're riding alone, you need to know what you're going to do before it happens. First, don't panic. Second, assess yourself. Are you injured? Can you move? Are you in traffic? Is there fuel leaking? Is the motorcycle stable? And only after you're established that you are safe and you are okay, should you even think about picking it up. Here's something important. You may not be able to lift it, especially if you got a lot of heavy gear on it. That's okay. There's absolutely no shame in calling for help. But if you want to learn how to pick your motorcycle up, take a class, get professional instruction. There are a ton of great online resources for this. There are several different creators on YouTube that demonstrate phenomenal technique for getting your bike back upright. Check it out, practice, have a friend come over and help you out. But whatever you do, don't learn the technique for the first time with your ankle pinned under a motorcycle. And remember, sometimes the safest decision is to leave the bike where it is and get assistance. Your pride is not worth a spinal injury. Mechanical problems in the what if plan. Here's where solo riders need to become slightly paranoid, not fearful, just prepared, because mechanical problems do not care. If you are having a beautiful Sunday ride, your battery doesn't care. Your alternator doesn't care. That belt doesn't care. Your tire doesn't give a fuck. And your motorcycle certainly does not give a shit that you are wearing your cutest riding outfit. So build a basic emergency system. I recommend carrying at least a tire pressure gauge, tire repair kit appropriate for your bike, a portable inflator, flashlight or headlamp, a basic toolkit, some zip ties, electrical tape, charging cables, a portable battery pack, emergency contact information, water. I live in Phoenix. Always carry water. Basic first aid supplies. And here's the important part. Know how to use what you're carrying. Tire plug kit is useless if you've never practiced with it. A battery pack, useless if it's dead. Flashlight ain't gonna do you no good if you can't find that sucker. And a toolkit is zero help if you don't know which tool fits what. So practice at home. Put the motorcycle on a safe surface. Walk through some scenarios. What would I do if my tire went flat? What would I do if my bike won't start? What would I do if I had a minor collision? You're basically creating your own emergency dress rehearsal. Now let's talk about something that sounds completely boring. Getting gas. Except it isn't always boring when you're alone. If I'm traveling alone, I do not wait until my fuel light has been on for 30 minutes. I certainly don't think I'll just find something along the way. I know where my next fuel stop is. And if I'm traveling somewhere remote, I will stop earlier than I normally would, because here's the thing, a gas station isn't automatically a safe place just because it's public. Some gas stations are busy, well lit, clean, and surrounded by businesses. Others are isolated, run down, nearly empty. And maybe you're the only person there. You don't have to stop just because your GPS says you should. If you pull into a location and something feels wrong, keep going. Find another station. I would rather make an unnecessary 15-mile detour than spend 10 minutes standing alone next to my bike thinking, I really don't like this place. Trust your instincts. That is not paranoia. That's situational awareness. And that is why I give myself extra range by stopping for gas early, so that if I need to, I can make that detour. Where you park matters. When I stop somewhere alone, I think about, how do I get out? Not just, where can I park? I imagine that there's a mafia hitman who's got a contract in his pocket and they're looking for me. I want my motorcycle positioned so I can leave without having to back it out into a difficult situation. I don't want to be boxed in. I don't want to park somewhere where another vehicle can trap me. I want to know where the exits are, and if I'm somewhere familiar, or rather unfamiliar, I'm paying attention. Who's around me? Who's been watching me? Is someone repeatedly appearing wherever I go? Do I feel comfortable? Do I not feel comfortable? Again, you don't have to prove that you're being rational. If your gut says leave, go. What if a person makes you uncomfortable? This is one of the realities of being a woman riding alone that we don't always talk about. Sometimes the danger isn't the motorcycle, it's another human. And maybe nothing technically happened. Maybe someone's just staring. Maybe someone keeps trying to talk to you. Maybe someone starts asking some personal questions. Hey, where are you headed? Oh, are you riding alone? Where are you staying? Oh, what hotel are you at? You do not owe strangers answers. You can be friendly without being informative. You can say, I'm meeting someone, or my friends are right inside, or I'm just grabbing something and heading out. You do not need to explain your itinerary, and you don't have to tell someone you're traveling alone. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice I would give a solo female traveler, don't advertise your vulnerability. Doesn't mean lie constantly. It just means don't hand strangers a map of your movements. And this is something that I am personally working on. As women, we are raised in this culture, we are conditioned to be friendly and polite and nice. And frankly, a woman on a bike tends to draw attention, especially if your bike has out-of-state plates. People are curious. Wow, a woman alone on a bike from far away. The majority of the time, their intentions when they approach and ask questions are nothing but good. They come from a place of admiration and curiosity and enthusiasm or excitement. But you never know for sure what somebody's motives are. So just be careful and thoughtful in how you answer questions about your movements. Now, if you think you're being followed, this is another scenario worth planning for. If you believe someone's following you, don't go home. Don't go to your hotel. Don't pull into an isolated parking lot or area. Go somewhere public and populated. Find a busy restaurant, a police or fire station, a busy gas station, a place where there's people, camera, and employees. And don't be afraid to call someone. The goal isn't to confront the person. The goal is to create distance and get somewhere safe. Now let's talk about something a lot of women either love or absolutely refuse to do. Camping alone. And honestly, solo motorcycle camping, for some people, can be absolutely amazing. You got a motorcycle, a tent, a camp chair, maybe a little camp stove, and nobody asking you, are we there yet? But camping alone requires a different level of awareness. When choosing a campsite, think beyond, does this campground look pretty? Does it have a great view? Ask yourself, is it staffed? Is there cell service? Are there other campers nearby? How well lit are the common areas? Where are the bathrooms? Can I easily leave? Can I get my motorcycle out? Is the campground known for being quiet and secure? What happens if I need help? And here's a big one. Don't isolate yourself just because you're camping alone. You don't need to announce your exact campsite number to the entire internet. But someone you trust should know where you're staying, when you arrived, when you expect to leave, and when they should hear from you again. Campsite setup. Think about how you're positioning your motorcycle. You want to be able to get out. Don't park yourself into a corner where you'll have to maneuver a heavy motorcycle backwards in the dark. Keep your keys accessible. Keep your flashlight accessible. Keep your phone charged. And know where your essentials are. You don't want to be digging through 3 bags at midnight because you heard something outside your tent. Now let's switch it up a little bit and talk about attending events alone. Let's talk about motorcycle rallies, concerts, bike nights, charity rides, Sturgis, Daytona, local events, all those places where you can show up alone and have an amazing time. You absolutely can. And honestly, one of the best things about riding is that motorcycles create instant community. You pull up somewhere alone and suddenly you're talking to someone you've never met. And that's one of the beautiful things about this culture. But remember, not everyone who rides is automatically your friend. Enjoy the community, but maintain boundaries. If you meet someone and they want to know where you're staying, you don't have to tell them. If somebody wants to follow you back to your hotel, hey, let me make sure you get back to your spot safe. You can say no. If someone becomes intoxicated or aggressive, remove yourself. And if you're drinking, you better have a plan before that first drink. Because ladies, your motorcycle is not transportation after you've had a few too many, period. Have an exit plan. If I were to attend an event alone, here's the things I want to know. How am I getting out? Where is my bike? What direction am I going when I leave? Where is the nearest main road? Where can I go if I don't feel comfortable? And most importantly, who knows where I am? The solo rider communication plan. If you take nothing away from this episode, take this. Someone better know where you are. Not necessarily every mile, but enough. Before you leave, send someone you trust information about where you're going, what your planned route is, where you're staying, if that applies, approximate arrival time and approximate return time, and establish a check-in. Something as simple as, hey, I'll text you when I get to Flagstaff. I'll text you when I'm checked into the campground. I'll call you tomorrow morning before I leave. And here's the important part. Tell them what to do if they don't hear from you. Don't just say, I'll call you later. Give them a window. Hey, if you haven't heard from me by 8 p.m. and you can't reach me, give me a call again. And if you still can't reach me, start making calls. That's a better safety plan. Your personal solo rider rules. I want you to create your own 5 rules for solo riding. Mine looks something like this. Rule number 1, I trust my gut. If something feels wrong, I don't need evidence to leave. I don't need justification to leave. I just get the hell out of there. Rule number 2, I don't ride tired. Being exhausted on a motorcycle is a safety issue, period, point blank. Rule number 3, I don't let my fuel get dangerously low because running out of gas is a pain in the ass, but running out of gas alone in the middle of nowhere is a really big freaking problem. Rule number 4, I don't let pride make decisions for me. If the bike goes down and I can't lift it, I'm calling for help. If the weather turns bad, I am stopping. If I'm lost, I'm pulling over and I'm figuring it out. Rule number 5, I ride my own ride. That applies whether I'm riding alone or with 50 other women. I don't have to keep up with anyone. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to ride beyond my skill level. And I sure as hell don't have to finish a route just because I started it. The point isn't to be afraid. Here's what I want women to hear from this episode. The answer to the risks of riding solo isn't don't ride alone. The answer is learn how to ride alone well. Learn your motorcycle, learn your limits, learn how to handle the small problems before they become big problems. Pay attention to where you stop. Pay attention to who is around you. Don't ignore your instincts. Tell somebody where you're going. Have a communication plan, carry the right equipment, and practice. Because the goal isn't to eliminate every risk. You simply can't. You can't control the driver who crosses the center line. You can't control the weather. You can't control whether your battery decides to die 200 miles from home. You can't control every person you encounter, but you can control your preparation. And here is a huge difference between being afraid to ride alone and being prepared to ride alone. If you've been thinking about taking that solo trip, maybe this is your sign. Start small, ride 20 miles alone, then 50, take yourself to lunch, ride to the next town, spend a night somewhere, learn what you're comfortable with, build your skills, build your confidence, and eventually you may discover one of the most addictive things about motorcycling. That feeling when you realize, I can handle this. Not because nothing can go wrong, but because if something does, you know what to do. That's freedom. That's confidence. That's what being a capable woman on a motorcycle is really about. Ride smart. Ride prepared. Trust your gut. And above all, ride your own ride. I'm Shell, aka Pass Out, and this is Hot Flashes and Horsepower. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, the rubber side down, and never underestimate a woman who knows how to handle her shit and her own motorcycle. Stay safe, folks.